Oh no, I've been glitched. Anyway, so as you could tell from the video title, this one is about scoring goals with items in your inventory and things like that, like skulls. And this actually came as a request from Bullshiv39. I think I pronounced that right. Anyway, so the goal here, no pun intended, is to get a player to have a skull or a ball or something that they found on the map, run into a goal and score it, and score some points for a team. And I do this in two different ways that you'll see. I have one set up to where you grab one specific item that's sitting on the ground over here, you take it to a goal over here, and then that's it. You score the points, the item is gone, and it was that specific one, that specific item. The second way is where you have multiple of an item. Let's say I have like 20 skulls. I think that number changes so many times throughout this video. Well, anyway, 20 skulls. You don't want to have to do the script for each one, so I have it set to where you score the same amount of points for every skull that you pick up and take to the goal. And I also show you how to respawn the item in case you want to have the item again, and so on. So hopefully this covers everything you need, and we're going to jump right into it. Let's go. Okay, first things first, you're going to need a little map set up, and that just involves your skull item or your ball or bomb, where they look really similar, but or your power seed, whatever item you want to be scored into the goal, and you want your goal object as well. You see I have a bunch of items kind of scattered around, and you'll see why in the second half of the tutorial if you decide to watch that. But generally you only need one for the first half. I just have the different ones out here to show you that they do work identically to one another in the node graph. Anywhere where you would plug a skull in, you can plug a ball in, and it would function identically no matter what. So anyway, the goal object is any volume or boundary that an object has. Whatever you want to use that fits your map, you can use it as long as it is a volume. For me, I'm just going to use a pointer with a visible boundary, and that should do it. So now let's go ahead and jump into the scripting part. And to do that, we just need to grab our object that we want scored and our goal object, bring it into the node graph with Y. I didn't name anything, but you kind of get the idea of what I'm working with here. So since we're going to be working with an area monitor, we need to use the event on object enter to area. And we can't plug our area monitor in directly, so we need a node called area monitor from variables basic to plug into in order to allow us to plug our area monitor object in and make it an area monitor. So now it's actually listening or looking or whatever you'd call it for whatever player entered the area. Okay, so now the category we need to go to next is from the, it's an inventory. That's the category we're going to, and we're looking for the node get is holding specific weapon. Place it right here. And a little fun fact, all skulls, balls, bombs, and power seeds are all counted as weapons. Even though they're technically items, they are, in the game, counted as weapons. They also have a type, but that's for the second half of the tutorial. So now we have our skull as our weapon that we want to pick up and, check for. We need to plug the unit that's holding this, or supposed to be holding it, into the object that entered the area. So now it's looking for any object that enters the area holding this skull, specific skull right here, this one. Not this one, but this one. And another little fun fact is you do not have to filter out to find out if it's a player or not, because only players can hold skulls, bombs, and etc. So you don't have to use getIsPlayer in a branch to figure all that out. This filters that out automatically for you, so we can cut down on node space with that. So now that we have this, it is a condition. So we need a branch from logic and connect it like this. Connect condition to is holding specific weapon, and this part's done right here. So what happens when a player enters the goal with the ball or skull or whatever item? We want it to score. So when it scores, let's go to game mode and adjust team points. This is if you're playing in team-based mode. If you're playing free-for-all, you'll need to use this node instead, which is directly above it, and it's called adjust player points instead. the player will plug directly into here due to the same reason I said here. You can safely place player here, and it will have the right player. You can get rid of that though, because I'm going to test it in Forge mode, so I'll be using a team mode, but it works identically other than that. Adjusting points, we're going to go to score adjustment, and I'm going to let them have about 5 points. 5 points for scoring this goal. And now we need a team. Now you can do this one of two ways. You can either A, have this as a specific goal for, let's say this is team 1, like soccer, and then here is the other goal for team 2. Then this goal, which we brought into our node graph with this, which you would name it team 1 goal if you were to do something like that, I'm sure. Then you would just simply go to the node options here and select team 1 as the owner of this goal. This is the team that will get the points if a player walks into this area with the object. So that way, if the wrong team, team walks in there, they accidentally just scored a goal for the other team, a penalty, kinda. But the other way to do this is go to players, and that's the way I'm going to have it set. And we're going to grab get player team. It's about 3/4 of the way down. And the player will be the player that entered the area. If a player enters this area with a skull, or with this skull, whatever team that player belongs to will now get the points by doing it like this. So now we don't have to, associate a specific team with this. All teams throughout the map can collect this skull if they find it and bring it here and score for their team. So I can get rid of this now. And it will now work. I might set up a debug if it doesn't work right, because sometimes you see we have a score at the bottom of the screen. However, sometimes it doesn't like to work. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Let's find out. It did. It worked. And since I'm holding it, I'm still holding it. It wasn't removed. If I enter it again, it will keep scoring over and over again. And you probably don't want that. So you can either A, get rid of the goal by using delete object and deleting the goal, and you don't have to worry about the player scoring again in that same goal. Or you could do it like we're going to show you now. I'm going to show you how to set up removing the object from the inventory. And it's one node, delete object, and you just plug that into your skull or whatever item you have. And the delete object is found in the objects category towards the top. And now, when we try this out, it scored the goal and it took the skull away from us. And notice that since we didn't use this in the node graph, it's not going to work. If we use this skull, it's not going to work because it is a specific skull. This is useful for if you have like special skulls that actually enable the in-game skulls, like for like tough luck and things like that. You don't want every skull in the game giving you tough luck when you pick it up. You only want that specific skull right here. That's how you do that. Now there's one last thing I'm going to add to this. And let's say you want the ball to respawn or skull to respawn. To do that, you go to the very bottom of the objects category and grab spawn object and connect that back to your skull here or whatever item you use. Because when you use delete object, you don't have to use drop item or drop weapon, because it automatically removes it from the player's inventory and removes it from the map at the same time. So it doubles up on nodes so you can decrease the amount. It does 2 effects in one, so you're safe from having to overload yourself on nodes. The spawn object will, once the object has been deleted, it has no place on the map. It has no origin, basically. And when it respawns, it will simply respawn in the place that the item is placed on, like pre-game. So that's why whenever we do this now, I'm going to have the skull. It's going to score it, and then it will respawn. You notice that it didn't change at the bottom, by the way, because it's glitched, but it'll say 10 now. Yeah, see? So that's why I say it's kind of unreliable in Forge mode to test the score at the bottom sometimes. But notice that it respawns in the place that the item was placed at, its original spawn point. So I guess you could count that as its origin, but if the object doesn't exist on the map, then it doesn't technically have an origin until it's spawned back in. But anyway, yeah, so there you go. That's how you get reoccurring points, by respawning the same object over and over again. Like, let's say you have a ball in the middle of a field, and they run it into the goal, and then it respawns in the middle of the field, and so on. Now, I'm going to show you, since I did promise this part, I'm going to show you how to attach this one, the ball, and power seed, and etc. They all work in the exact same way. I'm only going to test the ball because the other two also obviously work the exact same way as this. So when we test this ball right here, it's going to do the same thing that, yeah, see, it does the same thing that we had the skull doing a second ago. Since we unplugged that skull, it's no longer going to work. So you would have to set up a separate one for the skull if you had the ball and the skull, which just requires duplicating the script or copying, pasting the script like this. Copy, paste, and just replacing this node with your skull now and connecting it like it's supposed to be connected. And then now you have both of them set up to do what you want. You can adjust the score differently for a skull versus a ball and all that good stuff. So that is the first half of the tutorial. And if that's all you needed, you are free to go and click on another one of my videos, or, go about your day and do what you are doing. That's also okay. Now, for the second half of the tutorial, which I'm going to have a timestamp for, well, if you're just now tuning in, this is the second half of the tutorial, and this involves getting an item, multiple of an item, to score in a goal without having to set up a script for each individual item. Let's say you have 13 or 37 different skulls. You don't want to have to make a separate script for each and every one of these, and that's what this part of the tutorial is for. So you will notice, if you are following from the first half of the tutorial and you're still watching, that I will repeat a lot of phrases and things I said, and including the script, because I don't want the viewer to have to go back to the previous part of the tutorial that they don't need in order to get the information they need. Okay, so to start this off, what makes this a little different is, instead of picking one of the items that you have on your map already, you'll need to make one more copy of the item type. Let's say I have 13 skulls down there. I definitely don't. I have a lot less than that, but I have that many skulls. Let's say I have that many. You want one more of skull on your map somewhere that's untouchable, and I'm going to call this the master item, or the master skull. That way we know for sure what we're working with. The master item is what I'm going to be calling it in this instance, is the item that's able to be referenced in the node graph that can't be interacted with, affected, touched, or otherwise bothered in any way by any part of the map at any time throughout the entirety of the game, no matter how long it goes for. You want this to be your static item that's never interacted with, that's safe to reference in the node graph, because when you do this a certain way, items will get deleted and therefore cannot be referenced and may break the script, because let's say we use this one as the reference, it will get deleted based on when it gets scored, and therefore there will not be a way to reference skulls anymore, because that skull reference here is now gone. So this will break for all the other skulls. That's why you need a master item, whether that be a skull, a bomb, power seed, whatever. You want a master item on your map in a safe place that will not go. I recommend basically directly under the map, and make sure it has phased physics, and then it's safe. It won't be deleted, it won't be destroyed, it won't be interacted with. Everything is safe and you can reference it. So now that I've got that rambling out of the way, grab your master item and your goal object, and we can open the node graph. The script is vastly different, which is why there are two parts here, although the beginning does start out similar to the first part. So to start this out, we're going to work with our goal object, which I didn't name, but it's fine. You get the point. We're going to be working with an item or object entering a area, so we're going to go with the event on object entered area. And since we can't plug our area monitor in directly, we need to go and grab the area monitor node from variables basic to convert our volume object, which in my case is a pointer, into an area monitor readable by the game. So now the game is listening actively for things entering this area. So the next thing we're going to need is now in the inventory category. And we're going to be grabbing get is holding weapon type. But there's also one more node, and it's not this one. Get is weapon type is the wrong one. Get weapon type is the correct one. They're very similarly named, but they function vastly different, so make sure to get the right one. So now we need to plug some things in. Let's move our master skull up here so it's nearby. Plug the master skull into the weapon here for get weapon type. We're getting the type of weapon this is, and it's a skull, so everything that's a skull will match this. The weapon type can now be taken from this node and plugged into the weapon type input of get is holding weapon type. The unit needs to be plugged into the object. The neat part about this is only players can hold a skull, bomb, ball, or power seed item and various things like that. So we don't have to actually reference or try to determine whether it's a player or not entering the field by using get is player, because this will do it automatically based on the parameters we have set up right now. Okay, so now that we have this, we need to grab our branch from logic and just set it here and plug in our event to it, and the condition is that they're holding the weapon type. And this is slightly similar to the previous part of the tutorial, but now is where we change things up a little bit. Now let's go to objects, and we're going to delete the object when it is scored, but after that we'll assign some points. But we're going to delete an object. We can't plug it into anything here. We can't plug it into anything down here in order to get that out of the player's inventory. So how do we do that? Well, we go back to inventory and we grab player weapons, or get player weapons. That's the node you're looking for. We can plug player back into here, and the player is the correct player due to the thing I was saying earlier where only players can hold it. And it's checking for a skull. If they are holding a skull, then that means everything from that point on is the player holding the skull, so it is the correct player. The reason why this works is because everyone who has played Halo knows that a skull, bomb, or ball, or whatever item like that is your primary weapon at all times, unless you just drop it. So it will never be your unequipped weapon. So at this point, we are guaranteed to be removing the skull from the player's inventory when it is scored in the goal by doing it like this, because it will always be the equipped weapon. Otherwise, they wouldn't be holding it in the first place, and therefore the script wouldn't trigger. So now that we have that, we have the ball removed, or the skull removed from the game. Now we need to make sure that the player gets some points for scoring that. And if it's a team-based game mode, you'll use adjust team points, and if it is a free-for-all game mode, you'll need to use the adjust player points node instead. This works only for free-for-all, and this works only for team. They do not work together, and they cannot work in the same game mode. So if you're using free-for-all, make sure you're using the right one, and if you're using a team game mode, make sure you're using the right one. We're going to give 5 points for scoring the ball, or skull. I keep saying ball, and I'm just going to go ahead and call it a ball, but you know I'm talking about the skull, because it's just natural at this point. I'll just keep calling it a ball. The team. Now you can do this one of two ways. You can either A, have 2 goals or multiple goals, whatever. And this goal right here is specifically for Team 1. Let's say it's like a soccer field. And on this side, you have Team 1's goal. And whenever a player enters this goal, Team 1 will score the point. Which means if the wrong player would enter, or from the opposite team, then they just scored a point for the enemy team because they weren't paying attention. And that works for some people. In order to do that, all you got to do is go to the node itself and go to the team of the node properties. And there you go. You can change it to whatever team up to team 8. And there you go. That's all you have to do. The other way to do this is by getting the player who entered the area, get their team. So let's say it's a neutral area where where a player from either team can take this item and get some points. That's where this comes into play. You can use get player team from the players category, plug player back into here because it's the player that walked into the zone. They are holding the skull and they just scored it. And now whatever team this player belongs to will now score this 5 points rather than it being a specific team determined by the node. So that's all we have to do there. That's it. So let's jump in. You'll notice that our master skull cannot be touched. Alright, so you can see at the bottom our score has increased and the skull was moved from the inventory. And there it goes again. My score is now at 10 because I scored 5 more points. And yes, you can do this all the way up to as many skulls or items that you have in the map. It doesn't work for this because it wasn't specified. Bomb, same thing, and the ball, same thing. Perfect. Okay, now there is one little chunk of this part of the tutorial. If you wanted it like that and the items you have never respawn, then you are safe to close the video now and watch another one of my videos or carry on about your day. However, if you want your items to respawn, then there is a bit more you need to do in order to make this happen. And that's why I'm going to put another timestamp for this. So let's continue on from where we were and disconnect the delete object node from the rest of the script back this way, because we're actually going to need to set up declare object variable. We're going to need to set up the trinity of declare, get, and set variables from a variables advanced and grab declare object variable. The identifier, I'm just going to name it object reset, and I'm going to have the scope as global. The initial object does not actually matter because it will be changed the moment the script runs anyway. So now that we have this, we need to set the object variable. And we're going to place that right here above this because it will be involving this node right here. So let's connect the if true from the branch to set object variable, and then set object variable to delete object. Basically, we're just kind of inserting this node in between these two that were originally connected. So what do we need to do with this one? We need to obviously make sure that the identifier matches. The scope also needs to match. Now the value is where things get, where we actually start to make the magic happen. The equipped weapon, like I described earlier, is guaranteed to be a skull based on the script so far. A player entered, they're holding a skull, otherwise it would not even go as far as this. And since they are holding a skull, they are guaranteed to be having it as their equipped weapon, as they cannot have as their unequipped weapon. So by using this, we can guarantee that the object that will be set to this variable is in fact the skull inside the player's inventory. That specific skull as well. Not just this skull or this skull, the skull the player picked up. So it could be this one, or it might be this one. It's whatever skull the player picked up. And now, in order to respawn it, we need to go down here, or up here actually, in the same category and use get object variable. We're going to, again, make sure the identifier matches, and it's case sensitive. Make sure the scope matches, and the last thing we need to do here is go to objects, at the very bottom, grab spawn object, and then plug it in after the rest of your script, and then plug the object into the object of our variable. So that's your new script, and I'm going to go ahead and test this out. Now, no matter what skull I pick, only that specific skull will respawn. We got points for that. It respawned. Let's do it one more time just for good measure. That skull respawned. Okay, let's play around and grab this one and watch to see if it respawns. Yep, that one specifically respawned. And then this one. Yep, same process. It all works the same way. It works to where all skulls give you the same things, and you can have multiple of them that will respawn when picking them up without too much to worry about. So let's get a good look at that script here. There you go. And close that. There. If you need a screenshot, you can take it now. So one thing is the first half of the tutorial and the second half technically cannot exist together because the conditions you have set here would apply when doing the first half of the tutorial. The only thing different is the first half of the tutorial would not apply to this one. So this one would apply to it. It wouldn't apply to this, pretty much. So that's why I did 2 halves, to make sure that everybody's bases were covered here in a way that helped them. And I guess I did forget to do this. Let me go ahead and just plug this in, and it's super easy with this one. I'll plug the ball in and detach this, plug the ball in here, and you'll notice that the ball functions the exact same way now. Yep, see, scores 5 points, it respawns, score 5 more points, and it respawns. Now, to be fair, I did not have a master item for the ball set up just now, because they respawn like that, but I would highly recommend having a master of the ball if you used it, and same with the power seed, or whatever item you have that you want to be scoring. So that should just about cover everything, and yeah, hopefully this will lead to a lot of really cool maps. And that should just about do it. I tried to keep it straight and to the point, while also having 2 different sections that helped everyone out. And as always, if there is an error in the script and something goes bad, that's what the Discord and the comment sections are for. So if you see that I made a giant oopsie, you can go ahead and call me out. Just go ahead and make sure that everybody knows that I made a big, dumb, stupid decision. So with that out of the way, hopefully this helped you out with your map, and I hope to see you guys on the next one. I'll see you later.